So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. Really happy to welcome all of you here to our cold call workshop. And first of all, I want to really say thanks to Kim, our customer success manager. Kim was our first employee at Kickscale and already a long time with us and works really successfully together with leading B2B SaaS companies and has prepared a lot of content today about how to do cold call workshops. We at Kickscale support that with various playbooks and happy to share today one of them. And Kim, the stage is yours. Thanks a lot for preparing that and thanks to all participants for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Gerhard, for the introduction. And thank you, everybody, for joining this workshop. I'm really excited to go through the slides with you together the next 60 minutes. And as Gerhard already said, I was the first employee for Kickscale almost 2 years ago. And I'm working together on customer projects with B2B SaaS companies. And as Edwin already mentioned before, we see cold calling as one of the important pillars of sales nowadays, obviously, next to other outreaches like LinkedIn and email. And today we're going to focus specifically on this topic. And yeah, so let me present the slides. I hope everybody can see it now. Yeah? Okay, great. So a little bit about the agenda for today. So first, we're going to start talking a little bit about the DISC personality profiles. And I'm going to give you some examples. And we're also going to do it together, looking at different profiles and see if we can identify the different personalities. Then we're going to talk about the cold calling structure. And I prepared some nice scripts and examples for you guys. And in the end, everybody knows objection, and we're going to talk about how to handle them. First of all, has anybody already heard about the DISC personality profiles?
Yeah, of course. It's different colors, red, blue, and then someone is more whatever ambitious, and you have to talk in this way. The other one, you have to talk another way. So there are these 4 different groups, and they overlap a little bit, and you can spot it if you know the signals, what kind of group the person belongs to. Something like this, right?
Yeah, somebody did the homework. Great job, Edwin. Yeah, Edwin is right. So I put into the slides how the DISC personality profile is based on. Like, you can do it after our workshop for yourself to find out what personalities you have and in which of the personality tests you fall in. So here you can see the test. It kind of looks like that. And you just go through the test and you can give numbers. For example, 4 would be you really highly correlate with the adjective you can see here. For example, enthusiastic, determined, and so on. And 1 would be the lowest. And in the end, you can count your scores and see for yourself what personality you have. I just put it in here so you can already see what the test looks like. That was the introduction of the test. Here's the test itself. And I also placed a link. So after our workshop, you can go there, follow the link, and find out the personality profiles. Here's another one Gerhard added to this slide deck. It's from Tony Robbins. Here's a little bit more extended and elaborated DISC profile test. So feel free to do either one of them and find out for yourself. And as Edwin already mentioned, here's a quick overview about what the DISC personality profiles actually is. So you can see here 2 axes, the upper one and the lower one. So the upper one would be the active part, so extroverted people, and they're correlating with the 2 upper personality profiles. You can see here in the left upper corner, dominance, and the right upper corner, influence. And if you go down, it's more introverted. And on the left lower corner, there's conscientiousness. And on the right side is steadiness. And then On the right side, far right side and far left side, you have two other axes. So the far right side is more, I would say, people focused, and the far left side is more objective and quantifying, and people who actually do really good with numbers. So that was just a quick overview, and I'm going to talk now about it in a little bit more detail. So dominant, that was the left upper corner, and you can see here always the priorities, the motivation, the fears, the behavior, and the limitations of the personalities. So if you're a dominant personality, then you have priorities like commanding, leading, pioneering, and being resolute. And you have motivations like power, authority, competition, winning, success. And fears, the loss of control, being taken advantage of, and being vulnerable. And the behavior, obviously dominant people are really self-confident, direct, sometimes a little bit forceful, and they love risks. And the limitations of this profile are the lack of concern for others, and the impatience and insensitivity. The next one on the right upper corner was influence. So influence, the personality profile has different priorities, obviously. So it's more energizing, pioneering as well, affirmative. They're motivated by social recognition, group activities, and in general, being friendly related conversations. And their fears are social rejection, disapproval, loss of influence, being ignored. And their behavior, they're most of the time really, really charming people, enthusiastic people. They're very social and optimistic, and they love to talk. Limitations here are impulsiveness, disorganization, and lack of follow through. So if you're working in sales, you might probably fall under those two personality profiles, because salespeople are most of the time outgoing. They're not introverted, so they're extroverted, and you probably fall here in this hemisphere of dominance and influence. Then looking at the other two profiles, steadiness. It's on the right lower corner. Your priorities would be, if you're steady, being inclusive, humble, and affirming. So I would say harmony is a big topic for you within the group. Your motivation would be stable environments, sincere appreciation. You would be cooperative, and you love to help others. And your fears would be loss of stability, change, loss of harmony, and offending others. Your behavior would be, you're really patient, you're definitely a team player, you have a very calm approach to the things you do, and you're a good listener. Some of the limitations would include overly accommodating, you have a tendency to avoid change, and you're a little bit indecisive. And on the low left corner, low left corner, I switched to the wrong slide, sorry. Here's conscientiousness. Your priorities would include being deliberate, humble, and resolute. So this personality profile, they're really, really good in numbers. They have an analytical thinking, and most of the time it's also reflected in their job positioning, I would say. Their motivation, there are opportunities to use their expertise and gain knowledge. Their fears are criticism, being wrong, and slipshod methods. Their behavior they're precise, very analytic. They have a lot of skepticism, and they're reserved and quiet. So sometimes maybe when you're in a meeting and a person's really skeptic about what you say, then you might be in front of a conscientious person. And their limitations, they're overly critical, they have a tendency to overanalyze, and isolation. And I prepared some examples for you guys, because you can definitely see that also in their LinkedIn profiles. So let me open one of them. The first one is, let me go back. The first one is Frank Treason. He's the team lead in BDR Western Europe. So I took this example out specifically for us Kickscalers. So he would be probably a person we want to talk to. Then you just like go through the profile and try to find out which personality he has. And I already want to say here that personalities is not like black or white. So personalities are unique and have different flavors. So it wouldn't be, for example, only dominant or influence. Maybe they are somewhere in between. So you always have to find out for yourself what this person is. It helps you a lot with not only cold calling or writing cold emails. It helps you everywhere. It helps you in your meetings as well. If you're like sitting in front of somebody, you can definitely tell within the first minute what personality this person you're talking to have. For example,
in dating, it helps as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's always good to find out the personality profile. And based on that, you can always adapt your conversation. So looking at Frank, we just like scroll through his profile. Let's see what he's saying about himself. So Frank is a digital professional and enthusiast. Maybe before we analyze this profile a little bit more, I already want to give away that if you look through this profile, you might want to find 10 keywords which this person is resonating with and which this person described. So if you put these 10 keywords in your email for reaching out to people, they would read the first line of the email and they would see the keywords and they would definitely see like, oh yeah, this person did research, he knows me, and I'm totally resonating with the message he sent me. So you can see here, he's working already 20 plus years in IT and digital marketing. So in pre-sales as well. So he might probably be the guy we want to talk to. He has a Dutch background, and here you can already see like he values honesty, directness, perseverance, and I would definitely write it down already. And I want to keep that a little bit as a dialogue. So maybe you can also say your input if you already know what personality profile this guy might have. Then just like speak up and feel free to engage with me. And then obviously I would look at the position he has. So as mentioned before, he has the team lead. He's in charge of EMEA and the Western region. You can also look at his previous positions, and it also kind of gives away already what probably a personality profile he has. So I assume, as he's a team lead and BDR in Western Europe, he's probably outgoing, so he would be on the upper hemisphere. I wouldn't say that he's an introvert, just from the first insights I got here. Then I would definitely also look at the activities. Some people do have a lot of activities, and then you can scroll through. So let's see what he has. Some people do not have any activities, but it's also already kind of an indicator about what personality profile he is. Because if you're more like on the introverted side, you probably don't share a lot. You probably are not so active in social media or on LinkedIn. So it's kind of already an indication about his personality profile. So if you scroll through here and see what Frank is doing, so here you can already see he's really interested in sustainability. He's concerned about the environment. So he resonates with sustainable topics, probably in his private life. He's really up to date, so he's following the news as well. You can see here, yeah, he's following the news about the metaverse. What else? He's concerned about KPIs. So it's kind of already also an indication that he's probably good with numbers as well. He's posting a lot. How universal music is making the most cookie instinction. Okay. And he loves apparently short messages. So we already have a lot of information about Frank. And now I'm gonna ask the audience, what do you think? How would you place Frank in the personality profiles?
Probably somewhere between influence and with combined with steadiness, I would say, because as you said, in the upper one, because he's a team lead, he's a pioneer. He was studied in Amsterdam, then he moved to England. He has a management position, so he must be a little bit dominant, but more the influence part, because he likes to be, he's enthusiastic, he's socializing, as you said. So this is why he would be more in the upper anyway, but more in the influence part and in dominance part. And then his numbers and that he's I think there was something from analytics as well. So he has some touch of a bean keeper, as a bean counter as well. This is why I would put him in the steadiness part, a mix between influence and steadiness.
Yeah, I can agree with Edwin. Maybe somebody else has different opinions, or how would you place his personality? Don't be shy, just try it.
I think so too, yeah. Influence must be high in terms of what he is socially active and so on. I think influence must be the highest, dominance also in a way as team lead and being direct, honest and so on. And most likely, as Edwin mentioned, yeah, I think steadiness is also definitely a part here, because caring, being human, carbon reduction and so on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and what would you write in the opening sentence for Frank? If you, for example, write an email, or if you're on a call with Frank, how would you trigger his attention?
Something around innovation, first and foremost. Kind of appealing to the innovation clout type of situation.
Combined with sustainability, yeah, somehow.
Yeah. Join the wave of innovation, something like that.
Yeah, sounds good to me. What I also would suggest before making up your mind about, for example, an opening statement, you can always look on the company website as well. So Frank, he's working for Adobe. So I would just like go on the company website, and I already opened it here. And most of the time in the job opening section, you would find the values of the company. Or in the news section, you would find current news, so what the company is doing at the moment. And that's also a nice way to find out more about the person. And I would also suggest, if you find the job openings, then you can already click on a similar job opening as his position, and then you can see already what the company wants and what the person would resonate with. Here you already see, okay, they're very people focused, they want to have a purpose, and they also take pride in what they do. What else can I find here? Creating experiences together. Let's scroll down a little bit.
What do you think? That it's always a given that the individual employee kind of aligns with the overall company philosophy and values? Probably if he works there for 11 years, he should, but maybe it's just a stepstone, and he's anyway in the wrong company, but he does a good job in what he's doing. and he can be a tough sales guy, but doesn't care about the company value regarding sustainability. And also you have to take into consideration that a lot of companies use this as marketing and PR, and they write about, like our employees are the biggest asset and sustainability and climate change, but it's just like political correctness, because they know that people like this, like they have pictures from employees in different, a black guy, an Asian guy, because this is how it's supposed to be, but in reality, they don't care too much.
I totally agree with you, Edwin. Yeah, obviously not everybody's aligned with the company values, and they don't necessarily have to be, but what I would say, it gives him an indication that I did my homework and that I actually looked up what his company is standing for. So it's some sort of personalization in itself as well.
Yeah, and it's true that if you check the web page, because for me it's so logic, of course, if I go into a call, I check the person on LinkedIn, and I also check the web page of the company. Always do this. It would be crazy to not. Takes me 5 minutes to take a look at their web page. But often when I mention something from the web page, they give me a compliment and say, wow, you looked at the web page. Come on, of course, but it seems to me that they're not used to it. So it seems that, hard to believe, there are so many stupid salespeople who do not even take a look at the web page before they talk to someone. So I really recommend this, and find something which shows that you did it, because then they recognize this, and most times they are really surprised in a positive way.
Definitely. I mean, we saw it also from our approach and how we want to approach people. A couple of, maybe one year ago, we were doing the mass outreach to a lot of people via email, and it was somehow already semi-personalized, like typical things like first name, last name, company name, but it's not enough. Yeah, it's still, like, if you receive such an email, it still seems generic, right? And so many people do that at the moment, not only with emails, but also with LinkedIn, or typically like call agents. Call agency, they call 1,000 people a day, and they have a call script, and just like go through the script, and they don't really take the time to research the profile of a person. And when you take this 5 minutes or 10 minutes to do so, you're already ahead of the game of so many other sales representatives. So here I found a job opening, which is kind of similar to what Frank does. So let's see if we can find something here. Responsibilities. So you see, they have a consultative approach to selling, taking time to understand the business, what we actually just talked about, objectives, challenges before recommending a solution. So also the company values quality over quantity. So you can already take this as a finding into your opening statement. You can say, for example, yeah, Frank, you're head of BDR for Western Europe, and I see from Adobe's profile that you guys are also valuing quality over quantity, and that's already something really valuable here, I would say. Okay, so we know a lot about Frank already.
Do you recommend to, if you want to refer to something from the profile, do it more to business related stuff, or if you find something, not all put it there, but sometimes they have information about their hobbies, for example, that they like music or taekwondo, saxophone, or that they engage in some voluntary work for poor people or whatsoever. Would you recommend to bring in such private and personal topics, or stay on the refer only to business related informations?
That's a great question, Edwin. I saw that it actually works really well if you have common interests with your prospect. I recently had a customer call with a sales solution guy from Oracle, And I found out on his LinkedIn profile that he's totally into running marathons. And yeah, just a weekend ago, I was also running the Vienna City Marathon together with friends, and I brought up this topic, and we clicked immediately. So that really, really helped in talking to the prospect, and also in following up. You know, like you can always send in an email afterwards, like, oh yeah, how's your preparation for the next marathon going? Yeah. Or what running shoes are you using? Like it's nice to bring in some personal flavor in this whole conversation. Doesn't matter if it's in emails or in direct interaction in a meeting. So I would say definitely both. Like it's somewhere in between just business related stuff and personal facts about the prospect. But it has to be genuine. So if the person somehow realized that you're just making it up and you're not really honest about your interests and you're just trying to be aligned with him, then it doesn't work, obviously.
Yeah, if you said, as you said, you have to really have the same interest, and then you are authentic in what you tell. And if you don't care about sports, but you say, hey, and you just pretend it, of course, it would not make sense. Yeah, I guess, yeah, that's true. The people must like you, and this is the best way to have common interest, and then you can talk about this as well. You just have to make sure that then you not only talk about this. I find this quite useful in John Belfort's Straight Line, where he says, of course, it's good to have these common topics, talk about, if you see a picture, he's fishing, yeah, talk about fishing, but you have to watch out that he doesn't take you to Pluto, as he always says. So really, and always come back straight line to business. Always find the loop and loop it back, no matter where the conversation, where he wants to take you. Go a part of this way to create rapport, but then always loop back to the issue, because you're there to selling him to something, to sell him something. Otherwise, he likes you as a person, nice. He says, hey, Kim is a nice guy, really love him, but he will never buy something from you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you shouldn't lose your focus.
You're frozen.
Yes,
Okay.
seems like that. So
Course. Sorry.
Go ahead, Tim. You were just frozen a little bit.
Oh, sorry. I said, like, yeah, it's good to have these personal conversations, but you should always go back to the main topic. That's really, really important to not lose your focus. And that's also one of the points I want to show you later in the call script, that you always stay focused on what you want to achieve during a cold call and during a meeting. So yeah, last thing I want to show you, sometimes the photo also shows something about the personality. So he's really smiling, and he seems really empathic, and yeah, he seems like a social guy, I would say. So definitely points towards the influence personality profile. Okay, then maybe let's try another one. Let's try Jennifer. So Jennifer would be probably an interesting prospect for companies which offer photo editing tools or any kind of photo retouching. So if you look at Jennifer, Jennifer looks also really nice and open, I would say. And now let's look at her description. So you can already see one keyword would be here, creative. So she's creative, and she has a passion for something. That's also a really nice indication. What else does she say about herself? She has already 10 years of experience in e-commerce. She's highly motivated. Oh, she's a leader.
Yeah.
It's also an indication already.
Yeah, because they should put her also in the dominant part a little bit. Although from the picture, I thought she would be more in the lower part, also the consciousness part. But okay, if she's a leader, she must also have aspects of the dominant part. Yeah.
So summarized, as you can see already, she has a passion, she's creative, but on the other side, she's a leader, she managed a team. And what else can we find about Jennifer? Wow, she has a lot to say. So that's already also an indication about the personality profile. We mentioned it before, being talkative or just saying short sentences, also in emails, it's an indication about the personality profile. And here you can see she loves to talk a lot, apparently.
Which puts her in the influence part, talkative. What if someone is short, writes only short messages, it would be pure dominant, or what is the idea if someone writes only short, yeah?
I would say it's on the left hemisphere. So more, as you mentioned, maybe dominance or also being analytical. So conscientiousness. They love facts, you know, they love to keep it short rather than just talk a lot about the topic.
Yeah.
And you can also see that in emails. If you sometimes you get like short answers, you know, and if you're an influence personality profile, then you would think like, oh, maybe this guy is offended by me, what I said, or that I said something wrong. But actually, it's just part of his personality that he likes to keep it short, you know. So what else is Jennifer doing? Let's see about her activities. So she's resonating with brands, which is probably part of her job title, but that also just underlines the fact that she's creative. She likes apparently, statements in the form of a meme, more or less. Here, being valued is also an indication. So being valued also means like she likes to be part of a group. Maybe she wants to be recognized about what she's saying. Especially, it's really helpful if she posts herself, but you can also see what is she liking. Then it's also an indication about what she resonates with. Looks everywhere. So yeah, I would say we already have a lot of information about Jennifer. We still can go and look up the company profile if you want. So I already opened it. She's working for Sky. And here you can already read a little bit about the company itself. If you can't find any information here, then you just jump to the job openings and try to look for something which is similar to Jennifer. So maybe junior designer would be a good option here. What you bring, team overview. Okay, she has a broad spectrum of variation in her job. So she's good adapting to new changes. So she's open to changes, which means that she must be somewhere in the upper hemisphere of the personality profiles. Inclusion, that's also a good keyword. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a little insight about how to analyze such profiles, so that you keep in mind not only looking at LinkedIn about what the person is doing, but also keeping in mind that you can get information from the company itself. The last one, I chose Pam. Oh, that was Sky, sorry. Yeah, I kind of mixed it up. So yeah, Pam was working for Sky, sorry. She's the head of video platforms. If you go through her job profiles, you can see that she's working already a long time with Sky. That might be an indication for loyalty. You can already read here, so she was a technical analyst. So that's a really strong indication for what personality profile?
For consciousness.
Exactly. So I have already the feeling you guys doing really, really great. She's also giving recommendations. Pam is very professional technical analyst. So yeah, I would just assume, just from the quick look at Pam's profile, that she would resonate with numbers, with facts. So you can only convince Pam if you have some numbers you can share with her, and probably you should use that also in the opening statement. Okay, then let's go back to the presentation.
No, I can't also hear there. We can't hear you there.
May I?
We can't hear you there, unfortunately. So Kim, please go ahead in the presentation, and probably once the internet works there, just keep on going.
Or she can write it in the chat if she has just.
Oh yeah, even better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, now to the main topic: how to do cold calling. I want to give you a quick overview about the cold calling structure. So most of the time, probably you don't have the direct number of the prospect. So what would you do? You would call the reception at the headquarters. And that's always a hard topic because that's more or less the gatekeeper. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in the next slide. So I just want to keep it short here. And then the next step, if the gatekeeper, the receptionist, would transfer you to your prospect, then you give a quick introduction. Then you would come up with the hook. And I also put always some questions here, which you have to keep in mind and which you should answer during your conversation, right? So after the hook, you would try to find out his demand. So that would be like this typical demand questions, like what do you use for XY? And we're gonna talk about that later as well. And then my favorite, objection handling. So people always come up with different kinds of objection, and we try to collect them and yeah, gonna answer them together with you. And in the end, always keep in mind, what is your goal? So you should never lose the focus. We talked about it a little bit earlier, that you shouldn't be stuck in personal things with the prospect. You should always keep in mind, what is your goal of the meeting or of the call. So first of all, do your research. Don't be any of these annoying CS guys who just like call you out of the blue with no knowledge about you whatsoever. So take your time. I would say 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you have on your hand, and do your research. And the research, we just did it, so you can do the same. Go on LinkedIn, look up the person, the prospect, and also look up the company, and then you're ready to reach out to the prospect. Consider always the DISC personality profiles and come up with nice touching points so you would resonate with the prospect. So first of all, the reception or switchboard. From my experience, you should always be honest to the receptionist. So you shouldn't hide the reason why you're calling. You just be honest to them, tell them what the call with the prospect would be about. And their job actually at the reception is not to hinder you to actually talk to the prospect, but just to sort out like these annoying call agencies who didn't do their research and they don't know what to talk about and what to resonate with the prospect. So be honest to them. You can treat them more or less as your best friend because they are a source of information for you. What do you mean by that? You can ask them anything. You can even ask, if you're not sure who's responsible for a certain topic in the company, you just ask them, like, oh, can you tell me the person who's responsible for I don't know, BDR management, or for retouching photos, or video development, anything. You can ask them, you can ask for the email addresses if you can't reach the person. You can also ask them how to properly address the person. You can ask them about the spelling of the name. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you even get from them the direct number, so you can call them directly next time. And here, the most important thing is quickly introduce yourself, introduce the company, and ask if they can transfer you or connect you with the prospect. So I put a line here. I would say like, hi, this is Kim from company Kickscale. I researched that and that topic, and the reason for calling is this and that. And research is a nice keyword, because research expresses that you did your homework. So you're not calling out of the blue. You give her the impression that you know what you're talking about and that you know why you're calling. And that helps most of the time a lot. And I'm also open to other experiences. So Edwin or anybody else, if you have experiences yourself with the switchboards, I'm more than curious to hear about it.
If I may.
Yeah.
My best experience getting past the gatekeepers, because let's be honest, that's your main goal. If you did your research, you know who you're reaching out to, sent an email prior to the call. The statement is, I'm calling to follow up on a previous conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed, it was a one-sided conversation. I'm not necessarily lying, but it sort of implies an ongoing conversation. And I know it's on the borderline of an ethical situation, but I found it worked for me, especially in the US.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the ideal scenario, I would say. If you already had contact and you're not calling really cold, then definitely mention that here. Then you can show
contact.
already. Yeah, like you can already mention that here, that you already were in contact with the prospect.
Yeah,
it gives you social proof, and it helps you to be that the person on the switchboard connects you.
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
But
And
if you're calling,
this can be either LinkedIn or email, but preferably email.
Mm-hmm. But if you're calling really cold, then just be honest with the person at the switchboard and quickly introduce yourself and tell them what the call will be about. So next thing, assuming that the receptionist transferred you to the prospect, then I always introduce myself in the first couple of sentences. So first question you want to answer is, who am I? So introduce yourself, say, hi, hi Thomas, this is Kim from Kickscale calling. Introduce your company. Kickscale supports BDR teams with sales playbooks and best practices. And here, it's really, really important not to pitch. So don't give away the whole product description and feature dropping or whatever. You just should give him a quick taste of what your company is about. And here is also a good point to mention some keywords which would resonate with the person. So if this person is a BDR leader, I would definitely, throw in keywords like sales enablement with playbooks, outbound emails, cold calling, whatever, like whatever resonates with the person you're talking to. That really, really helps, because in these first sentences, in the first 3-4 sentences, the person on the other end will decide if you're just wasting his time or if you actually have something valuable to contribute. Do you have any other experiences, or what are your best practices here?
If I may,
Sure.
If you've already kind of drawn a conclusion in regards to the personality out of LinkedIn research, stuff like that, it's really advisable to incorporate one of these kind of keywords in there, right? So as we were talking for like in regards to innovation, right? So for example, my name's Alex, I represent Kaleido. We are currently the market leader and innovator when it comes to automated AI-based image processing, right? So it kind of perks up before you go into the elevator pitch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. For example, imagine you're talking to conscientiousness personality profile, then you should definitely add some numbers, some facts about you and your company. So for example, I could say Kickscale supports BDR teams and helps them to increase their revenue by XY percentage. Just like drop a number if you know that this person would definitely resonate with numbers. But I would just recommend keep it short here. You just introduce yourself quickly and then you go to the hook. And here I definitely recommend to include your previous research and that you try to establish the connection. And to answer the question, why now? Why are you now calling me? So for example, I put here, I researched that you hired 4 new employees for your sales team. That means your company is growing and so is your demand for great sales processes. Then Kickscale would be interesting for you. Or as we mentioned before, you can also say like establishing the connection by saying, I want to follow up on my email. I want to talk about your LinkedIn post. It was really interesting. And also maybe if you saw a fact that they're switching from one solution to the other solution, or that they just got Series B, Series C, anything like anything which is valuable for the conversation here, just put it in there. And it should give the other person the spike of interest. That's all about why the hook is important. And next to why I'm calling now, you should also answer, what do I have for you? Because the person on the other end would always think like, okay, what does this guy want from me? Why is he calling me? And here you should answer what you have for him. I just put in as an example, with our platform, you have the best playbooks and sales practices at your fingertips that saves your team and yourself a lot of time. And then you can ask this question, yeah, Thomas, are you the right person to talk about this topic? Obviously, you already know that he will be the right person, but just to get his confirmation that he's the right person. And if he says yes, great, you're in front of the right person, you continue talking with him. And maybe if you're not sure if he's the right person, he says no, then it's a great way to just ask for the referral, which means ask him who the person might be who's responsible for the topic. And most of the time I had the experience that people are actually willing to help you. Obviously, not everybody is like that, but most of the time they're willing to help you. And then you got some great insight here. Any experience from your side about the hook?
I'm asking yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, please.
My question was, is it supposed to shoot those lines directly one after another? Because after I say I'm from company XYZ, we are doing this, I could pause and he could say, well, so what? Or yeah, nice for you, but I don't need it. Or to avoid this, shall I just continue? I'm from company XYZ, we are doing this and this. I'm calling you because of, so the why, and you benefit in the way that. So just try to get this information out in a single flow so that he cannot stop me before I even could deliver the message, what's his benefit, or would it be too much of a waterfall? Better introduce myself, wait, and then risk that he already comes up with some objections.
So,
yeah.
Edwin, one comment from my side here as well, what I have seen personally with cold calling, but also of the SDR teams I have managed. it's really about the tone of your voice as well. If you're, for example, saying, "Hi, Edwin, this is Gerald calling you from Kickscale." It's more like a question, right? It feels like a question. And in your head, usually it's then going like, who is this Gerald from Kickscale? And then, oh yeah, hello. And then you come up with your next thing. So you should try to get from one sentence to the next one and keep the prospect always engaged. This would be the ultimate goal.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Also,
Can I add something?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, that's you know, also the tonation, the how you emphasize. So if you just say it like of course it's he falls asleep. So if you have kind of do it in a little bit more exciting way and with some emphasis, and as you say, like a question, this probably makes a difference, and not just say it in a single tone like this.
Yes.
So if I may add something, like for me, at least in my experience, it was also really helping me on this part of the hook. Instead of formulating a sentence of what I do, kind of like formulating a question of the value that I'm adding to the client, and he himself or he or she or herself would like automatically answer the question, like kind of like themselves are realizing that this is adding value. So like, I don't know, for example, for Kaleido, like, hey, how important is for you guys automatization when you're doing your image processing, and how important is, like, I don't know, improving the design of your website, no, for instance, like something like this, it's like a question without an answer, but like, it's just sorting it or like planting it as a question more than a sentence. At least that's what I was working for me on my other job, no, business.
Yeah, definitely, Manuel. I would probably put that in the finding demand. So here you can ask all these questions. What do you use for XY? Would that be helpful if you can do XY? Or how do you solve the problem XY? And trying to answer your other question, yeah, it should be always dialogue. So it shouldn't be a monologue. It should be interactive. It's like calling a friend, you know. You wouldn't call your friend or your grandma and say like, "Hi, this is Kim. I'm doing this and that." You should always wait a little bit, you know. But the first 3 slides I showed you with the introduction, the hook, that would be actually your first 30 seconds or maybe a minute. So those are just like 3 or 4 sentences, and you can definitely go for it and just like telling him immediately, you know. You don't have to make like such an dialogue out of this part, because it gives him already the information. Then he can decide, okay, maybe this guy is really saying interesting stuff I'm resonating with, and maybe I should listen to him. Or he will decide, okay, this guy is just a waste of time. So going back to the demand after the hook, so hopefully the hook was successful, and then you try out to find his demand. And as I mentioned before, you can put your questions in here, like, yeah, what do you use for this and that? How would you solve this and that problem? For example, what do you use at the moment for retouching photos and editing photos? How are you making sure that your BDR team is aligned? Or yeah, like put anything in here where you can find out what the person would be interested in. And if you got the answer, then answer this question to him: what's the benefit of talking to me? And the answer to this question is your product plus the value proposition. And the product has to fit to the answer what he gave you. So if I was asking about what he uses to align BDR teams, he would give you already like, oh yeah, maybe I'm using Asana, I'm using Monday.com. And then you can already place his product needs. Like, oh yeah, maybe he's already using that, and many of my customers also use that, but then they found out about the value of Kickscale, and then you can talk about, for example, our platform plus the value which is provided by our platform. And I put here an example sentence. If I hear you correctly, onboarding of new BDRs, that's the pain point, takes up a lot of your time. Would you like doing onboarding more efficiently? Would you say that predefined onboarding processes embedded in a step-by-step guide would help you with your business or with anything? So that's the value prop, and obviously you can also make it way shorter than here, but I tried to come up with an example answer. And the next thing, yeah, it's already the closing. So if you already found his demand, if he's already engaged with you, then always think about the closing, and you can repeat actually the goal of your meeting many times during the call. So you can let him already know that your goal of this cold calling is to jump on a meeting with him. And even if he gives you, okay, nah, your solution is probably too expensive, or I don't have time for that, or any objection he's throwing at you, you always take the objection, then you provide the value for him, and then you repeat the goal of the call, actually. And you can do that many times during the conversation. And I put here an example sentence. So Thomas, if I tell you that I have a solution for you right now, which makes the onboarding of new BDRs faster, would you be willing to jump on a meeting with me next week? So that's already an attempt to close the person. But it's not that easy in real life, and we all know it, and he would definitely throw an objection at you. Then we come to the objection handling. And it's always good to somehow collect all the objections you get. So ask your team to document the objections, ask yourself, and write it down somewhere in a Word document. And you can do role playing and try to answer the objections with your team. And at some point, you're so good at objection answering that you don't have to think about it anymore. So how do you handle the objection? Normally, I repeat what he said. So that shows him that I acknowledged and understood his concern about what I mentioned before about my product. And it's some sort of mirroring, I would say. And then really, really important, answer their question. So if you, if he says, for example, yeah, that's too expensive, and you're coming with like, but my product does this and that and da da da, then he would not listen to you, because in his mind he would think, yeah, your product is too expensive anyway. So you should always really focus on what he said, so he feels acknowledged, and then he would listen to you, what you have to say. So it's always repeat the objection, answer the question, and give them more value, because objection only means that he has not yet enough information to make up his mind. So there's always something missing. I did a quick differentiation between objection and pretext. I'm not sure if that's the correct word in English, but in German it means Vorwand. And objection is always like a problem, a knowledge gap. So your prospect doesn't really understand it yet. But a pretext would be somehow a wall between you. Like if he's angry at you and says like, I don't have time, then okay, you already know, okay, it's not going anywhere. You can still talk 3-4 minutes and you wouldn't convince him. So it's also about losing fast in sales. You know, if you really have the feeling it's not going anywhere, then just accept it and thank him for the conversation and move on. And sometimes, if you get the objection from him, you can also use this nice sentence. It says like, if you exclude this one specific part you're doing the objection, for example, pricing, would you still be willing to continue talking if you just exclude this one fact? So that kind of also helps you to circle around the objection. But let's jump into it. I collected some objections for you. For example, that's a really common one. We already have a solution for that. Then acknowledge what you said. So I can imagine that you already have a solution, You can also say, I can imagine that such an innovative company already has a solution. You can also say many customers already had such a solution too, but after showing them our technology, they saw the additional value, the added value, or the benefit of using it. Or you can say, yes, exactly. I imagine that you already have such a solution because you're an innovative guy. Do you want to be innovative in the future? Yeah, obviously, like you can only say yes. Then you're like, oh, then you should consider our technology. Or what I specifically research. Yeah, the researching part I also really like because it shows him that you really did your homework and that you're really convinced that your technology can add value to his company. So that was the first objection. Maybe do you guys have any other examples on how you would answer this first objection?
So for the we already have a solution.
Yeah.
Most probably your hook didn't really work that well. It can be one of two things here. It can be, yeah, we already kind of have a solution, but I don't really care about talking to you. In which case, if you feel like that's kind of the very slow conversation going, try to redo the hook. So yes, I would imagine you already have a solution. I wouldn't think you're functioning without one at this point. However, there is always room for improvement, and there's a reason why we are currently a market leader. So I believe it's worth having a look. I believe we can bring value to you. And yeah, let's take it from there.
It's really, really interesting what you just said. You mentioned, yeah, you should consider us because we are the market leader. It's more focused on you and what you and your company does rather than what it actually brings to him, you know?
You've already mentioned the innovation part, right? Because that was basically your hook. So at this point, you're kind of introducing the competition, his competition, into this conversation, not by saying it up front, not saying, oh, dear Pamela from Sky or whatever her name was, like Deutsche Welle uses us, for example, right? Or whatever your competitor is. So you don't go that aggressive into showing off your portfolio and their competition, but you say, okay, this is why we're number one. And maybe if you want to go a bit like next level, you can say, we do have a number of similar customers to you at this point who have thrived using our technology.
That's great, Alexandro. Always the social proof, like, oh, we're already working with other companies in your field and they really like it. That's a great answer, definitely. I like it.
So Kim, Alexandro, hi. I also have to agree with Kim here. If you just throw into the conversation, there's a reason why we're the market leader. This does not bring any value to your lead. And what is in the background of when you say we are the market leader mostly means that you're having the most expensive offer. So if you're the market leader, you also have the highest prices. And that would also derive rather into what value does the lead have from you being the market leader. So then you can say, okay, we have so many companies that we have helped find a solution. We have had so and so many companies that already had a solution, then they tried out our solution. This is what happened from that. But just stating that you're the market leader does not bring any value to the lead, from my experience, just like Kim said.
Fair enough. Noted.
Maybe guys, we do have more objections, so let's move on. Oh yeah, that's a good one. I don't have time now. I would answer to that, and I'm open to your suggestions as well. I would say, I know that I disturb you with my phone call at the moment because, you know, like, be honest to them, you're definitely disturbing them, and that you must be very busy. However, I wouldn't reach out to you if I'm not convinced that my solution, whatever, could add value to your company. Or you can say, that's exactly why we should talk. Yeah, Thomas, do you want to have more time for important things in life? then you take a break. And then tell him how he can save some time. So for example, Kickscale and our playbooks should, for example, with the onboarding, should help you onboard new PDRs faster. So you have more time for actually the things that matter to you. So there are just 2 examples. Maybe you have other insights you can share here?
No, the classic one is that, yeah, because that's exactly the reason why I'm calling, to arrange an appointment where we have a little bit more time and then ask him what day is better, next Wednesday or Friday afternoon.
I like that one.
This classic alternative thing, you know, not asking if we have a call at all, but of course we have the call. The question is just when. So
that's a great one. I like that one. I have to add it to my slide deck. So the next one, oh yeah, we don't have a budget for new projects. That's a good one. You can answer, for example, I know that new projects do have to be planned ahead, especially with the budget. However, I want to show you how XY can help you be more efficient, save costs. That's more like a generic approach, I would say. Or another one would be, if you plan your new budget, you should know that our technology, or you should know what our technology can do for you. Is it okay for you to meet at the end of this week? Because, you know, when you consider a new budget for next year, for 2022, then they should definitely know what is out there, what is the offering. And that's why they should consider you. And that's always a nice hook. And the last one I mentioned here, yes, Thomas, that's exactly why you should consider our solution. Because with our solution, I'm sure that you can save costs and have a budget for next year. Do you want to have a budget? So what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, in our case, it's quite easy because the products we offer, we have free tires. So I say, well, I could say, well, the good thing is you don't need any budget because it's for free. But of course, there are some limitations. So we should take a closer look at it. But don't worry about the budget for now. And that's true, you know, so they can really, if I want, we have 3 products, main products, 2. They can, if they want and are happy with some limitations of the features, they can use it for free the rest of their life. And the other one, if I want, because I like him, I can make him a price so low that it fits in any budget. Of course, I don't want this because I want to make commission, but this helps me, of course, to say, hey, cool, don't worry about the budget. I like the saying that we don't want to win only by price, because who wants to be cheap? But we will never, ever lose by price. So if he's concerned, this is more if we talk already about competitors and the pricing, then I can say he should not be concerned about this because, and this is of course not always the case. I don't think that not everyone has the situation, but I can, if I want, I can always go down because it's software what I'm selling. So once it's developed, I could give it away for $1 if I like, you know. So up to me. But this at least gives me confidence to answer this in a quite chill way and say, hey, don't worry, let's take a look at it and the budget we figured out.
Yeah, sounds good. I think one of the next objections is also, yeah, that's too expensive for me. So it's more on this pricing topic as well. So let's see if I have it somewhere here. Yeah, it's too expensive for us. I sometimes hear that, and then you can focus. Yeah, like, I'm sorry, I was afraid to offer you something cheaper. You look like somebody who values quality. That's more like on this approach, you know, like, yeah, I know there are cheaper solutions out there, but you definitely value quality, and you definitely want to have a strong partner in our field. Or I would say everything seems to be expensive until you know what the offer includes and what the technology does. So that's specifically for SaaS companies, I would say. And it's a nice way to handle that objection.
And this is always a good opportunity to kind of find out more, because if they say it's expensive, it's usually expensive in relation to something else. So it's more expensive than this is a very good segue into that conversation, right? Okay, yeah, it's expensive in relation to what exactly, if you don't mind me asking. And usually they have a tendency to say, oh no, we have this like really good service, like it's really cheap, and it's like, okay, can you tell me a bit more about it? Can you, because I'd like to compare apples to apples, right? So we can have a fair comparison between price and the value that it brings to you.
Mhm. Yeah, I also agree with you. And I think when you say it's too expensive, maybe they don't know yet what the offer includes. So maybe it's also somehow an information gap. And then you have to elaborate on it again and show them your value, I would say. What else do I have for you? Oh, you just want to sell me something. I can't sell anything. I can't tell you something. The decision of you want to buy something or not is totally up to you. I can only show you what we have to offer. The final decision is always up to you. So it's like giving him the decision-making power and yeah, placing the ball on his side of the field. And I don't know how many times you would hear that in actually B2B SaaS, but sometimes I've heard that when I was working in a bookstore. And yeah, I just wanted to include it as well. Maybe you have other experiences. Did you ever hear such a sentence?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really, but you can always frame it as, okay, I'm trying to show you a solution, a possible solution to a possible issue you may have. And of course, it's your decision if you'd like to pull the trigger or not.
Mm-hmm. And I forgot to mention, actually, those objections, they're most of the time true. So when he says you're too expensive, then you probably are expensive. So it comes always from a true nature behind, but you should convince him that what you're offering is actually relevant to the price. I think I skipped one. Oh yeah, I'm not the right person for this. I think we already discussed it earlier. So if he's not the right person, then just ask for the referral. And that leads me to the end of our objection handling. And I see also that we're a little bit over time, but I'm super happy that you all stayed with me and bear with me, and I hope you took some insights out of this workshop, and hopefully it was somehow helpful to you.
Yes, for example, we did the email campaign on our LinkedIn to thousands of engineers, and never put any numbers, for example. As we know, engineers, they are in the strong in consciousness, so they would like analytics, numbers, figures, and we just said general words about what we have to offer, but we did not put any number. And this seems to be quite stupid now after thinking that it was a group only by where the members are all engineers, you know, where you can assume that they are 99% are strong in consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that, Edwin, that you could take some insights away.
Yeah, and the new group we are taking now, which are VCs, angel investors, so people who are daring, who take risks to invest. There we should maybe phrase something which applies to this character probably, because they're more in a dominant sphere, very likely investors. Yeah, so I have to rethink some messages we use in LinkedIn.
So, sorry guys, especially LinkedIn, what I found out, it really resonates well with them if you have a hyper-personalized approach. So currently I'm taking my time to write LinkedIn messages, and most of the time the people really come back to me because I put in so much information they're resonating with, and I'm always putting that into the connection request because you can add a personalized message there. Great.
Great workshop, Kim. Thanks for the insights. Actually, super interesting.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Kim, for sharing all this information with us.
And even if it's a refresher in some parts, it's always good to refresh because we know many things, but we don't actually do them all the time. So it's always good to have some reminders and refreshment. Thanks, Kim.
You're welcome, Edwin, and really great to have you guys here and also to get your inputs on the objections and how you do cold calling. And I really encourage everybody here to try out the DISC personality test and find out your personality.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the workshop, Kim. Very useful. I think I speak for all. We appreciate your time and your insight here.
Thank you so much.